Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Besu Contributors Call. As a reminder, we are under an antitrust notice under the Linux Foundation. That can be found on our wiki page. This meeting is being recorded, it is being transcribed, and machine summarized. So please mute unless you are speaking. Feel free to use the raise hand functionality if you need to get a word in, and we'll get started. So the agenda is available here on the wiki page. I'll post it here in the chat so folks have it handy. Starting off with Fusaka status. Hey, we just hard forked Fusaka a few hours ago. It seems to have gone well. Besu's following the head. Participation was steady, etc., etc. I haven't looked too deeply into how things have been going, but I also haven't heard a ton of news on it. So no news is generally good news. As part of that, the Fusaka release, there is a bug bounty that is currently ongoing. We have not really gotten a ton of reports in yet. Reports that we do get are being managed via our security reporting process. So if anybody comes to you with a bug that's being reported through the Fusaka, please direct it to a maintainer for proper triage and escalation. Any questions on Fusaka? Okay, great. Next up, sunset plan. We've talked a number of times about removing both proof of work and click as a proof of authority algorithm. The opportunity is presenting itself soon to potentially start doing some of this work, specifically the deprecation and removal of click. So I just wanted to open the floor for any comments, questions, or concerns about that.
I want to say that I'm in favor of removing click since it was meant for only testnet, like girly, as a way to avoid the issue on testnet using proof of work. And now since girly is gone, actually there should be no need to keep it around. So yes, I'm in favor of removing it. Then I had another things to propose for deprecation and removal, but I think, Matt, do you have something to say about click? I saw that you were trying to speak before.
Yeah, sorry, Fabio. I should have put my hand up.
Sorry. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, no. I don't have any concerns about Cleek coming out. It was vaguely on our radar, but we're focusing on some of the other removal work. Proof of work, I guess, is one of the ones maybe we could discuss a bit more in a moment. I feel like there was a discussion at some point that Click was being used for some development experience, maybe the developer testnet you were talking about, Fabio. So maybe we could just migrate that over to a QBFT setup if that's all that's the only reason that it would be a pain to get rid of it.
So you mean there is something in the acceptance test? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm struggling to remember the detail, Fabio. I feel like it came up probably 12 months ago, which is why my memory's a bit hazy. I think it was something like it was used as part of an existing test, or some sort of developer has set up for easy out of the box run a single node kind of setup was referring to Click still, but my memory is very hazy, and I think whatever that is, if we find it, we could probably just switch it to QBFT.
Sure, yes. I agree.
as part of deprecating it, we should probably make the documentation updates at the same time. We still have on the tutorials, like on the developer quick start, we still have create a click network and so forth. But I mean, we have QBFT equivalents and IBFT equivalents, but we should make sure we do the docs and remove that. So once it's gone, we're not referring to a feature that doesn't exist anymore.
Well, one other just point related to that. I don't know that Click was in the Sunset Plan blog article. Is it beneficial? I know we probably won't have many enterprise users actually reliant on it, but is it beneficial to and do a deprecation announce very soon, so that by the time we've actually done the work to remove it, people have had a bit of notice? Like, could it go in the next release notes straight away?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. In any case, we can give months of deprecation before the removal. I don't remember if we have a standard of months, 3, 6 months. I don't remember that.
Yeah, I know that the Sunset blog article, when I talked to Matt about that, his aim was that people had 6 months notice, which is I think it's a good aim. It's a healthy aim. I think for Click particularly, it's not the end of the world if there's a decision to get rid of it sooner. But if we just raise a PR to get it into to get into the next release notes at the very least, then at least that time has started ticking.
All right. So if anyone has something, we can also see if someone is still using it, so we can give some more months, or otherwise we can, if no one is using, we can start the removal before. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, my guess would be no one will be using it in what you would call a production system. It's possible people will be using it in like a production
Yes.
pipeline as part of building out a production system. They're not running in production, but their pipeline just runs some click to, Besu with some tests. So that would, I guess, that kind of scenario I could imagine. So a bit of notice period, and maybe I don't mind dropping something into the enterprise channel, just to try and raise awareness as widely as possible.
Yeah, I agree.
Great. We'll start preparing the messaging on that as soon as possible.
Can I ask about proof of work?
Yeah, go ahead.
The only thing I would just want to ask about was just it would be good to have clarity amongst the group on kind of a direction for that. So we did have Banu, one of the Collider contributors, maintainers, did start on that. He's now moved on to another company, but he did, I think, a fair chunk of the work under a PR, which I think has now been closed as stale. But certainly we're happy to pick that up, dust it off, and carry that on. So I just wanted to suggest that as a way forward for proof of work, if unless anyone's particularly keen to go and do it themselves.
Yeah, I don't see any problem with that. That sounds like the logical way to pick it up and continue. I'm not sure that anybody has any opinions on the how it gets done, other than, safely, obviously.
Yeah. While we're talking, I'll just dig out the PR and make sure it's reopened and just drop it in the Zoom chat in case anyone's interested. Because I think Barney went through quite a lot of the discussion and hashing out what was needed to get rid of it.
Okay, if so there are no other observation about click and proof of work. I would like to also introduce another potential deprecation. This could not be as easy as click and proof of work. Basically, I would like to see if it is possible to deprecate and then remove support for pre-London fee markets. I mean, removing the possibility to create blocks using pre-London hard forks that are still on without the base fee market. Why I'm asking for that? Because now we are supporting during the transaction pool and during block creation and the transaction pool, we are still supporting both fee markets, pre and post London. And if there is no real usage of pre-London, so there are no real network around using pre-London, we can get rid of that part of the code too. So I don't know if anyone in the call is aware of any network still running a pre-London hard fork.
Hey, Fabio. Yeah, so I think we do have some users on pre-London. Partly just because we have some quite long running historic chains. So I can see I can see the motivation for removing pre-London. I think using us as an example, but I suspect there are others out there with fairly long running pre-London chains where they just haven't had the need to upgrade to something like Shanghai for the new EVM opcode that introduced. I think it would be much more impact than some of the other things we talked about. So I think my initial view would be, in principle, I don't think we'd be against it, but I think it would need very careful thought and fairly well thought through timelines, much more than I think. I think with Cleat, like I said, I think we're fairly relaxed. I think it would need some pretty well thought through and very clearly communicated timelines. My guess would be that would impact people. And obviously there's an upgrade path, there's a migrate path, but I can say with almost certainty that some people would be affected. Some of them, we need to keep our customers more, current over time, and so we're not against in principle needing to go through that process of helping customers migrate chains to more modern EVM setup. But I'm just trying to highlight I think it would impact quite a few people.
That's interesting. I'm wondering, like, what would be the mindset that would say, yes, I want newer versions of Besu. I want to upgrade the client software itself, but I don't want to go through any of the scheduled forks that upgrade the chain.
Yeah. So I think my experience of this is that a lot of enterprise folks consider the runtime and the EVM spec in quite an orthogonal fashion. So if you take an example where you've got a consortium network where you've got a bunch of different orgs running nodes in a network, to upgrade the EVM spec requires some pretty careful coordination between all the parties, and they've all got to be on the right fork set for the right future block or timestamp. And that's kind of one set of stuff you have to do. To upgrade the client to get the benefits of maybe memory reduction, stability, CVEs, general enhancements, I think they would think of that as more run-of-the-mill software management and lifecycle, which they can do out of step with other parties in the consortium.
That makes sense.
So I do think people think of them as quite orthogonal. I think there's a good case to be made that people should be pushing more um, to move along the forks. But bear in mind that I think enterprise folks don't think of forks in the same way public chain users do. And very few of them will have been impacted by not being current on the forks. I think some people will have been impacted by things like I think Sol-C started compiling for Shanghai's opcodes. Um, and so some people would have migrated when Shanghai introduced an opcode that Sol-C and Open Zeppelin started using by default. Um, but I think there will be a bunch of people with legacy stuff where they're not deploying a huge number of new contracts, but they are invoking transactions quite a lot. So like I say, I'm not against it in principle. I think it needs to be considered quite separately to proof of work, to click, and so on.
What if we, thank you for that. That's illuminating. What if, what if there was a world where, Besu 2601 did not support building pre-London blocks, but block building was pluggable and we shipped something that could be configured and could retain that older ability separate from Besu. Is that kind of a non-starter for these folks?
Um, I I don't think it's a non-starter. And are you referring to some of the modularity that again Barney started some work on trying to make plugin enhancements that meant you could plug
Yeah,
in
I'm blue
USD and
skying here. I know that
yeah.
there would have to be a workaround getting that done, but it would be an
Yeah.
approach that would untie our hands from anybody that still needs to be on an older EVM spec.
Yeah, and I guess I was just thinking through as you're talking, Justin. Fabio mentioned the transaction pool. You know, some of that's got historic uh, pre-fee, pre-London fee behavior. One thing that I think is much more palatable is for the layered pool to stop supporting that. Um, I don't think I'd have nearly as many concerns about starting to remove support by taking it out of the layered pool. Um, Fundamentally not being able to produce blocks, I think, is a bit different. And um, I guess you're not proposing Fabio to remove. You've still got to have the EVM spec to be able to play back historic transactions at those specs, right? So is it just the
Yes.
fee market in the layered pool that you're thinking of?
Yes. Yes. Even Frontier transaction will be supported. Every transaction before London will be supported because it's already supported by
Yeah,
is the uh, fee market for specifically for transaction pool and during block production. That now there is some code that is dedicated to this pre-London fee market, and there are also all the duplication in the test. The test run both for pre and post London fee markets. So it's more trying to reduce the code base and the time required for tests, unit tests and acceptance tests.
yeah,
In terms of the implementation, is not so much code that would be removed. Uh, it was, let's say, I just wanted to understand if there was a real usage or not. From what I understand, it seems still early, since there are user using it yet, and I don't know
I
if they are willing easily to switch to another
yeah.
post-London
I
artifact.
so I think removing it from the layered pool, I'd have fewer concerns about because almost everyone we work with uses
Mm,
the sequence pool.
yeah.
Um, I think um, it's one thing that could be started. You could start down the road of removing a bit more of it might be to mark it as deprecated, but with no real view as to exactly when that's going to be pulled out. And maybe like a log entry saying that, hey, you're you're still running at Berlin. Um, you're going to need to upgrade at some point. If we can start people thinking about what's their upgrade path look like, I think that's helpful. But yeah, definitely people are still going to be running chains where they produce Berlin blocks.
I see. Okay.
I think if reducing test coverage, like regression coverage, I think if that's a priority to make the development process quicker and easier, I I think that's reasonable. I think having quite as much regression coverage of it, I don't feel is super critical, especially for the lead pool.
Yeah, I see. I see that we can drop the support in the layered pool and let's say basically don't uh, give new feature. I think only bug fixes should be done on that at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Cool. All right. If there's nothing else to cover with regard to sunsetting older features, we can move on to discussion of our wiki.
Howdy.
Hi, Rye.
I know that this is super exciting. So what I did is I went and the state of the art in terms of export plugins for Confluence has gotten much better. So yesterday I did an export of the Besu space, and then I put the raw export over here in the Besu ETH wiki directory. So this is basically no edits. And then I started bringing over a few pieces of this so that it is, where it needs to be. And this is part of the overall moving away from Confluence, which has been under discussion for a little while. How can I help you? What is, do you want 100% fidelity with what exists over here before starting to do your thing over here, or what? How can I help you?
All right. So thank you for presenting this as an open floor discussion. I'm going to weigh in real quick, but then I want other folks to weigh in. It's great to hear that the state of the art has gotten better, because my problem when we tried this in the past was that the output wasn't really all that legible or usable. This looks already a little bit better. So I don't need one-to-one fidelity or anything like that, and I fully expect there to be an opportunity here for culling and editing as we go through it. As long as things are legible and links still work, I think that's one of the big things, is that interlinking needs to really be preserved, and we can't break a lot of the paths that people have already set down between these files. That's kind of my acceptance criteria. What do other people think? I think searchability might be a thing that we want also to make sure is usable. Not everybody can browse through a wiki. It's not the fastest way to use it. It also kind of presupposes a lot. We'd rather have good search performance. I don't know exactly how that works here.
Sure.
Being able to use things like labels and tags to avoid having to really structure your data, I think is very powerful. So I would want to make sure things like that were available.
Gotcha. It is, so this is just the export that I'm showing here.
Yeah, yeah.
So the new home for the wiki would be over here. All of the links right now are completely broken because I just did the export. Like, I don't think this link actually goes anywhere. Yeah, so that's just because I haven't done the copy over. As far as searching, I think the searchability on the wiki on GitHub is on par with the searchability of their other products. One thing that I will point out is that this is something that you can get cloned, right? So you can clone the wiki here and operate on it locally using your normal tools, which is how I did all of this. But what you're seeing here is very rough and ready. So I would not worry too much about what is actually on this page right now. But when I go here, let me see. So basically, this page is the page that is the README over there. And then I guess, like, what is the minimum thing that you would need? I assume that the meeting minutes for, like, say 2025, something of that nature, to enable you to have the meeting minutes. And this, if we go into whatever. So right now, this is not set up for org access because I haven't done it yet, but it would be the same team over here. We would just need to, pick a team like Besu doc maintainers or Besu contributors or everybody to have control, the ability to edit that repo. I just didn't make that change yesterday when I was running through this.
Okay. What do people think? Luis.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, I think we talked about this before in the past. Is this the normal open source, the standard open source way of having the wiki in a separate repo? Because I've seen some projects which have not like the meetings agenda and all of that, but the how-tos or how to contribute or how to get around the code, the Besu code, is just stored in the repo itself in the Besu repo alongside the source code. Is there any what do people think about that, and is that being explored? Or because I feel the users, anyone contributing outside might get a bit lost if they have to search for this wiki repo and dig through all this information that they don't need to get started on the project. So yeah, just opening the thought for that.
Yeah, so in this instance, I just created the repo in order to do the wiki export, and I put it in this directory called wiki. You're right. You could do something along the lines of having it attached to another repo. The reason that I did not do that in this case is because, this is part of the effort to move Besu over to its own org so that it can be managed effectively. So this would not be, I don't believe that this would be like removing this from these repos. However, if the Besu project wanted to, you have a wiki tab that's not used or is sort of used. If you wanted this to be attached to something like the Besu repo or whatever, I'm Tell me how I can help you. I don't have strong feelings about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would be happier to have maybe like something like the things to get someone started on the project and how to contribute and code of conduct and all those things. So have those directly in the documentation alongside the source code that people can just get in very quickly. And leaving those meetings, agendas, and community calls, like more detailed information about how the project health is going in the wiki side of things. We've seen this, and I'm taking from example RETH, which has the documentation organized like this. All the get started and all these useful documentation to get around quickly in the project are alongside the source code. But yeah, maybe we can revisit some other time as well. I don't need to decide on this now, but it was just a thought anyway.
Okay, well, this isn't a decision that needs to be made today. I just wanted to bring this up and socialize it that this is in progress. And the plan would be at some point soon to make the Confluence wiki read only as soon as we're able to migrate. As soon as, and when I say make it read only, I'm not talking about, deleting anything or anything of that nature. This will remain as an archive for at least the next year.
I think as far as next steps go, right? Maybe if we, try to do an extraction that preserves a lot of the links and figure out the search problem, I think we would be ready to move forward.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, all right. Next up, Glamsterdam planning. Headliners have already been selected. All right, so we're doing EPBS and block level access lists. Besu is making some pretty good progress on block level access lists. We have external contributors working on that, which is very exciting. They're collaborating closely with, Kareem's not here, but yes, they are collaborating very closely with maintainers and pushing a pretty major feature along externally. So I think that's pretty awesome. We should be happy with that. Propose for inclusion is still open, and it likely will be. So if anybody has opinions on smaller non-headliner EIPs that they think should be included in Glamsterdam, you still have a chance to do that. If you want to make a case, if you want some of the maintainers to come forward and try to advocate for them, reach out. I have my own pet issues that I'm advocating for. I think Fossil is viable and can work there, so I will be doing my own campaigning for that. And I encourage other people to push for what issues you think matter. Any questions, comments, favorite EIPs you'd like to discuss? Okay. And then lastly, I just want to remind everybody that the project charter is still out there. We still need approvals from people. If you're a maintainer, please approve it. I think that some of the Australian contributors are lacking here, and so I will make sure that I remind them to contribute. If you have questions that are keeping you from wanting to approve it, please raise them directly on the PR itself. Here, I'll post a link to it again so everybody can see it. But again, that remains outstanding, and
Yeah, thanks for pushing that forward, Justin. And yeah, as you say, if people have questions, I'm happy to try to resolve any of that. We can go back to our, um, you know, project charter and governance experts at the Linux Foundation and get any questions answered. So feel free to let me know if I can help with anything.
will do. Thank you, David.
And I will note that I added a couple things real quick, Justin. If you reload, I put two other things on the wiki. And I will drop the links. One is just a FYI, and the
sure.
other. So the first one is an FYI, just to let you know, the annual Linux Foundation Decentralized Trust Technical Advisory Council elections will be starting mid-October. I think October 13th is the date nominations open. So just as a reminder, the Technical Advisory Council is the group of community members that set the governance, that run basically the technical governance of the community. We've had Besu community members pretty consistently on the TAC in the past. Thank you, Matthew, for serving this year. So just to flag that election's coming up, it would be great to continue to have Besu's voice represented there. So I just wanted to let people know, if that is something you might be interested in doing next year, that the opportunity to nominate yourself is coming up. And then one other quick note here, I'm putting the link for this too. And we could discuss this if people have questions or ideas, or this could just be a heads up and we could discuss it later if there's interest. But we're planning for an in-person maintainer days in New York in January 26th and 27th. Pre-pandemic, this sort of in-person maintainer event was something we did pretty frequently. We've done it a little less frequently since the pandemic, but we want to start doing these more regularly. So there will be an opportunity for maintainers in the community to get together in person. What we do with those 2 days is really up to the maintainers. We want this to be an event that is driven by what the maintainers are interested in and what would be useful for them. So if that is something you're interested in attending, just to let you know, registration for that isn't open yet, but it will be soon. And then if you want to put Besu content on the agenda, we're more than happy to work with you. And again, this could be an opportunity to do collaboration with other people in the community. I know, for just one example, Hyro, for example, uses Besu. So if there's an opportunity that would be useful to collaborate in person with maintainers of other projects like Hyro, we could do that. Or if you want to educate other maintainers about Besu, we could do that. So if there's anything you would want to put on an agenda that's Besu related, we're more than happy to work with you and get those sessions on there. So happy to answer any questions about either the election or the maintainer days, but just wanted to share that information.
Thank you. With regard to maintainer days, is this an opportunity to hear more from institutional Besu users? Or is this more of a interacting with other maintainers of other LFDT projects?
That is a good question. So the way that we've been running maintainer days recently is we're co-locating it along with the LFDT member summit. And member summit is a member only event where people in the member community, who are largely users of the projects that are being created, are going to meet in person. So one note, what we've done previously is that any maintainer who signs up to maintainer days will also be able to attend member summit, and there will be a lot of Besu users there. So that would be something. We could also look at inviting specific people to maintainer days. We have a lot of flexibility on what the maintainer days event would be like. If you're saying it would be helpful to have a Besu session with a certain set of people in attendance, this will be in New York. We could invite people from, banks or financial services companies that are in the area to attend. So there's a lot of flexibility to organize maintainer days in a way that would be useful for maintainers. And then also maintainers who were there for that event could attend the member summit later in the week, where they would be able to meet, organizations that are using the different projects.
Interesting. Okay. I'm asking because I'm interested in any type of focus group or user data that we can get on how people are using Besu, what they like about it,
Yeah.
cetera.
So that's something, if you want to organize that, we could look at doing that at Maintainer Days and or Member Summit. You know, the schedule for Member Summit is also, you know, being developed right now. So we could talk about that too.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
maybe you could feel free to ping me on Discord. I mean, anybody who's interested is welcome to ping me on Discord and say, hey, I'm interested in running this sort of session, and then we're happy to work with you.
Okay, thank you. Matthew, go ahead.
Thanks, Justin. Yeah, I just wanted to mention a couple of any other business bits. I should have put them on the agenda, really. If that's all right.
Yeah, go nuts.
Yeah, so just a couple of status update things just to mention. So I've mentioned in a lot of recent community calls that the Bonsai archive with state proofs PR, I'm looking to get closer to merging as an experimental option. I think I think I'd like to try and push on that soon. I think partly around some discussion on the PR and perhaps me having some chats. Maybe Gary, if you have a bit of time, you were really helpful with the original Bonsai Archive PR, and Karim obviously was as well. So I guess it's a heads up that I'd really like to get that merged as an experimental option ASAP, just because it's been hanging around a long time while I tested it against mainnet, and it's up to 10 million blocks, but that's taken quite a long time, obviously. So I for want of waiting, sorry, go for it.
Could you
No, did I lose audio?
Yeah, I didn't hear it either.
No, he
It seemed
said,
like it
could
dropped.
you? And then he dropped off. So I don't know.
I'll DM on the I'll mention on the Zoom. While we sort that, I could cover the other item just while Gary's reconnecting. So the other thing I just wanted to mention, Nick has joined the call. Nick Miano from Kaleido. I just wanted to do a mini intro, just so that Nick's going to be getting involved in Besu a bit more. So you may see some activity from him on some of the PRs we have in progress, some of the POW stuff that we mentioned, and so on. So I just wanted to introduce Nick and give people a heads up. Hopefully you'll see his name around Discord and GitHub a little bit more.
Hi, Nick. Welcome.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Hey, Gary, are you back?
Yeah, I don't know why it's all of a sudden I lost my Zoom connection.
Yeah, so I think you were starting to say something and then we lost you.
Well, I was just saying that I've been focused on something elsewhere, and I can do like a context switch and look at some of the archive stuff that you've got working at the moment.
That'd be really appreciated. Thank you. If I'll at you on the thread on Discord, and if it's useful in a week or so when you might page it in to maybe chat through it on Zoom just to kind of move things along a bit quicker than going viral the GitHub comments, then feel free.
Certainly.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that. The floor remains open if anybody has anything else they'd like to discuss. Okay. Well, as always, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, everyone, and see you on the internet.
Thanks, Justin.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Bye.